Gardenias and panic floated down the aisle while I smiled at the girl in white, who once begged me to braid her hair. Because even as she stared through me, every contract for the day carried my name. I had paid for the food, music, and honeymoon with refundable leverage timed like a fuse, so when the room turned against me, there was no need to cry, only to decide whether to cut the wire now or later. You're watching Revenge Files. Subscribe for a new twist daily. I live in Asheville, North Carolina. I'm 49, a charge nurse who keeps a list for everything. My daughter Madison is 23. She calls herself Maddie around friends. When she got engaged to Tyler Brooks, she asked me for help. She wanted June. Something airy and editorial with pale green linens and a jazz trio. A honeymoon with water so clear you can see your toes. Her exact words. None of that is my language. I speak in delivery windows and deposit schedules. So I asked for a budget, a spreadsheet, a plan. She asked for trust. Just make it perfect, Mom, she said, eyes big, hands on mine. Please. I did what mothers do when the child who once handed you crayon drawings asks for a miracle. I found a way. Except I didn't write a blank check. I wrote terms. The venue, Laurel Fork Estate, quoted $18,600 for a Saturday afternoon ceremony and evening reception. A third due at signing, a third by April 15th, and the balance due on the Monday before the wedding. I negotiated a refundable retainer, $8,200, if I canceled before 3 p.m. on the wedding day due to client conduct that renders performance unreasonable. They told me no. Then they told me that wasn't a real clause. Then they said the owner would consider host discretion language if the retainer increased. I increased it by $600 and accepted the risk. I booked the caterer, Pine and Plate, for $92 per person with a 120 guest minimum and a 2 p.m. cancellation window for hot items. They hated the window. I paid an extra $750 to hold it. The DJ wanted half up front. I paid his full $1,950, but I also bought event insurance with a rider covering abusive conduct directed at the named policyholder. The florist agreed to stage ceremony florals only after my go text. For the honeymoon, I used a travel agent I trust, Claire at Riverbend Travel, who finds flexible rates like a truffle dog finds mushrooms. 7 nights at a resort in Turks and Caicos, oceanfront, with a 24-hour cancellation and fully refundable flights, booked as separate one-ways using flexible fares. Costly, yes, but control has a price. Control mattered because by March, I saw Tyler's family's fingerprints all over Maddie's tone. When we toured the venue the first time, Maddie looped her arm through mine. In May, she walked 3 steps ahead with Tyler's mother, Lena, and pretended not to hear me. I wrote it off as nerves. Then came the registry guidance. No kitchen items under $300, no personal items, experience gifts only. She texted me that from a cousin's brunch. I typed and deleted my reply 6 times. Instead, I called Claire and added a clause to the honeymoon files. I, and only I, could authorize traveler check-in. I initialed that in blue ink and kept the original. One problem, control doesn't erase love. When Maddie asked if I would walk her partway down the aisle, just to the second row, then Dad takes over, like a handoff, it'll be sweet. I said yes without thinking. I pictured kindergarten braids and scraped knees and cinnamon toast on cold mornings. I did not picture what came next. June 15, 2024, started soft. I steamed her veil in my hotel room. I smoothed the edge with my fingertips. I avoided the photo suite because the photographer wanted just bridesmaids and bride and stepmom, and I was neither bridesmaid nor step anything. I pressed my dress, navy, simple, with the kind of sleeves you forget you're wearing. Cars rolled up to Laurel Fork Estate around noon. By 1, the patio smelled like rosemary and sunscreen. The jazz trio tuned in the shade. I handed envelopes to the venue manager, Camille, gratuities sealed and labeled as promised. I showed her the card with the code word, cinnamon, if I needed privacy with security. She smiled at the overkill. I smiled back. At 1:40, I stood at the back of the aisle as guests took their seats. The sky teased rain and then thought better of it. The officiant gave me a nod. The first notes of Moon River drifted. I held my breath. Maddie appeared, summer dewy and bright, on her father's arm. My ex, Mark, looked proud in that stiff way he has with feelings. At the second row, as planned, they paused. She turned toward me. For a blink, I saw the child who used to ask me to check for monsters under the bed. Then she pointed at my chest, her bouquet trembling. "My husband doesn't want you here," she said, not loud, not quiet. "Get out." I looked at her father first. He didn't move. I looked at Tyler. He stared past me, jaw set. Then I looked at my daughter again, and tried to find her in the shape of the words. "Now," she added, because the first cut hadn't gone deep enough. Gasps run through a crowd like a wind. This was a gust. I have stood beside beds when machines beeped and families went silent, when the room needed someone to decide. That's the only training that kicked in. I did not cry. I nodded once, like she had asked me to fetch the car. Then I walked out, past programs tied with sage ribbon, past Lena's height smile, past the couple I've known since Maddie's preschool. I stepped behind a hedge and pulled my phone from my clutch. I looked at the time, 1:49 p.m. I texted Camille, "Please meet me by the gate." Cinnamon, she came in less than a minute, radio clipped to her hip. We stood with the golf carts and the scent of gasoline and cut grass. "I'm canceling the reception," I said. The words tasted like steel. Release of ballroom, bar, dinner, dessert, late-night snacks. Hold the ceremony space until 2:30 for photos if they want them. After that, shut down. She blinked. "Miss Whitaker, there are penalties after 2, I know. The contract is in my name. It cites client conduct as grounds. I am the client. My checkbook and the policy writer back me." Camille did not ask what conduct. She watched my face, like nurses do. She nodded. "Understood." "Security at the ballroom doors," I added. "No entry for guests, staff only. Announce a venue decision. Keep your team safe." She radioed in 3 quick bursts with codes that meant nothing to me and everything to her. She didn't look sorry. She looked like a woman who went through a hurricane and knew which windows to tape. But then, I had to pull more than one plug. I called Pine and Plate. I gave my name, my invoice number, and the phrase we'd agreed would be my authorization. "Greenfinch," I said. Silence then. Miss Whitaker understood. "We will not plate. We will box non-perishables for donation. Hot proteins will not fire. You will forfeit the $3,680 prep fee." "I accept," I said. My voice stayed steady because I had practiced this sentence in the mirror and hated that I had practiced it. I texted the DJ, Cade, as I walked toward the parking area. "Contract holder here. Do not set. Invoice paid. Release is authorized. Send me your gear list for insurance audit." I messaged the florist, "Cease reception install. Ceremony arch, only if already on site. Bill me for labor to date." Then I opened Riverbend Travel's app. The flexible rates for Turks and Caicos were still within the 24-hour window, and it was 1:57 p.m. I canceled the resort. Refund processed. I canceled the flights. Credit held in my name because I had paid. I removed the authorization that would have allowed them to check in without me, except I still had to face my daughter. I drove my Subaru to the far lot and sat with the air conditioning on high until my hands cooled. I wanted to run. I wanted to curl up and sleep through June. Instead, I walked back to the patio. Guests were shifting on the chairs like a school of fish. The officiant stood awkwardly under the arch. Tyler's groomsman whispered. Maddie's father gestured toward me from the 3rd row, the same clipped gesture he uses to wave off flies. I kept walking until I reached the side of the aisle. Camille met me with a quiet aside. "Reception canceled, ballroom locked, staff informed. I'll handle the announcement as a venue decision. Are you safe?" I nodded. Safety is a slippery word. I did not feel safe. I felt precise. The ceremony finished with a speed reserved for dental cleanings and airline briefings. Photos snapped like paper cuts. The trio played one last song without being asked. People tried not to look at me, and then looked anyway. Lena reached me first. "This is a special day," she said, each word pressed flat. "You will not ruin it." I let her speak. Her pearls sat just below her collarbone, perfectly placed. I thought about how much it costs to look effortless. "It's already ruined," I replied, "but your son didn't ruin it alone." She made a small sound like a drawer closing. "You're jealous," she said, as if she were telling me a diagnosis, and I should thank her. Maddie appeared then, veil snagged on a chair, bouquet wilting at the edges. "What did you do?" she hissed, too close for anyone else to hear. I met her eyes. I canceled everything under my name. You can't, she said, and the child in her made the vowels round and soft. I can, I said, and I did. There will be water and shade for guests for another hour. Take your pictures, then figure out dinner. She stared at me like I was speaking math. Tyler said, I heard what Tyler said. I cut in. I'm done funding people who want me gone. For a beat, I expected her to say she didn't mean it, to say she got swept up and was sorry, and the words felt bigger in her mouth than they did in her heart. She didn't. She said, you'll regret this. The punch of it made my throat tight. I nodded again, to keep from saying something I couldn't pull back. I walked away. Until Tyler tried to get into the ballroom. Camille's security stopped him at the door. He demanded to see the contract. He said words that made a nearby aunt step back and blink. Security stood like the granite steps they were trained to be. He called me a name with an ugly vowel. I took my phone back out and opened my email. I forwarded the executed agreement to Camille and to Tyler's Gmail. Tyler looked at his phone, read his own no power, and went very still. Then he did what bullies do when their volume fails. He threatened. We'll sue, he said, low and tight. You'll pay for the perishable waste, for damages, for what? I asked. For canceling services I paid for when your wife told me to leave her ceremony? For exercising a clause you never cared to ask about? Be careful with lawsuits. Discovery is bright light. He had never needed to hear the word discovery before. He didn't like it. He left a half circle of shoe scuffs on the concrete as he pivoted. I didn't linger for the slow burn. I gathered my purse, returned my vendor badges to Camille, and drove to my apartment. I sat at my kitchen table with the window open because the air felt like it could rinse something out of me that water could not. At 4:15, the first text came in from Maddie. Where is the food truck? People are hungry. I typed, there is no food truck. Delete, delete. I typed, talk to Tyler. Delete. I typed, I gave the venue coolers of water and made sure there was shade for an hour. I canceled the rest. I sent it. The read receipt hit in a second. The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, appeared. At 5:02 she wrote, we ordered pizza, 40 boxes. Tyler put it on his card. For a painful instant I pictured the first grade class party when my sheet cake slid on the car seat, and she cried at the smudged frosting, then stopped crying when the teacher cut the edges off and everyone ate the part that wasn't pretty. Then I remembered I was not in first grade. I was 49 years old and had just told the world I would not be erased in silence. One problem, the fallout never stays tidy. On Monday, Tyler called the venue pretending to be me. He asked them to reinstate the reception charge so he could dispute my cancellation. Camille recorded the call. He called the caterer and screamed. They sent me the voicemail transcription unprompted. On Tuesday, Maddie texted a photo of herself at the courthouse. We're filing for damages. Her eyes were puffy. I looked at the date stamp. June 18, 2024. I called an attorney, a woman named Ziara Nwosu, who does contracts and small claims with the exact calm of someone who irons with steam and never scorches. Her retainer was $30,500. I signed at 9:12 a.m. and wired funds by 9:30. Ziara asked for the stack I carried in a tote: contracts, emails, texts, screenshots, recordings. She organized them into a binder with tabs that looked like they had been placed by a machine. At the same time, I contacted Riverbend Travel for a formal letter detailing the refund terms I had exercised. Claire sent a letter within an hour and a statement showing credits processed at 1:57 p.m. on June 15. We added it to the tab marked honeymoon. On Wednesday, I wrote to the apartment community where Maddie and Tyler planned to move on June 30. The lease and deposit for the first 3 months were in my name. I had done that to cover the gap while their credit improved after a late payment last year. I had scheduled a transfer to their name on July 1st, contingent on proof of renter's insurance and the first electric bill. I withdrew my application and asked that my deposit be returned according to the standard schedule. I did not do this to leave them homeless. I did it because I am done tying myself to men who tell me to vanish. The property manager called me back. We can put them on a wait list, she said. The unit can be relisted. Your deposit will return within 14 days of RE rental. Thank you, I said. My voice shook for the first time since Saturday. Thank you for being humane. Thursday morning, Ziara filed a response to their case. She attached the clause from the venue agreement, the abusive conduct rider from the insurance, and the affidavit from Camille stating that I had been told to leave. She also attached a statement that I had offered shade and water until 2:30 p.m. to mitigate disruption, and that the venue had secured the premises without incident. "Judges like order," she said during our prep call. "You bring them a file that reads like a path. We will not rant, we will not moralize, we will walk." The hearing was set for July 9th at the Buncombe County Courthouse. I wore the navy dress from the wedding because I believe in recycling pain until it loses its shape. Maddie and Tyler sat at the other table, his father behind them, Lena to the left, pearls in place. The judge read the docket like a grocery list. Our case rose and fell on paper. Tyler tried to speak over me twice. The judge raised one finger, just one, and Tyler stopped. Ziara asked Camille 2 questions on the stand, whether I had been told to leave and whether the contract allowed a host to cancel in that event. Yes and yes. She asked Claire 1 question by phone, whether the honeymoon funds were refunded before check-in under rates that I had paid to be flexible. Yes. She asked me what I had felt. Precise, I said, surprising myself, and then later, tired. The judge issued a written decision the following Monday, July 15th. I made coffee and set the printout on my table and read it twice. He found that I had acted within my contractual rights, that I had attempted to mitigate harm by providing water and shade, and that the plaintiffs had failed to show damages because they had secured alternative food at their own expense after I withdrew services under my own name. He denied their claim for $11,420. He ordered each party to bear their own costs. I did not feel victorious. I felt like I had paid to hold a boundary and then paid again to defend it. For the next week, my phone went quiet. People who had watched the wedding from folding chairs posted their photos carefully cropped. No one tagged me. That was fine. You can be erased from a picture in 3 swipes. It takes longer to erase someone from your life. On July 24th, at 8:03 p.m., I got a text from Maddie. "Are you home?" she wrote. I stared at the 3 words until they looked like new words. Then I typed, "Yes." She came up the stairs without announcing herself. She stood in my doorway like she was deciding whether to be a person I recognized. Her makeup was off. She held her shoes in one hand and a keychain with a tassel in the other, once jaunty, now limp. I said something I can't unsay, she started, voice thin. "Yes," I said. "You did." She sat. She didn't reach for me. I didn't reach for her. We looked at the table between us like it might explain something. "Tyler said you were trying to control everything," she said after a while. "He said your money came with strings." "Of course it did," I said. "Strings keep things from falling." She laughed once, the kind of laugh that made it to the surface but not through it. "He said I had to choose." I waited. Nurses know how to wait without filling silence with noise. It's a skill and a curse. "I chose stupid," she said, and the word stupid sounded like a pebble tossed in a pond. "You can choose again," I said, "but not for me, for you." She nodded, fast, like she could shake loose something behind her eyes. "Will you ever forgive me?" I looked at her. The pumping motion of a newborn's fist, the gap-toothed smile at 7, the way she said "Mama," when the night air rattled the window screens all stacked in my chest like the linens in a hall closet you open carefully, because one wrong tug will send everything sliding. "I'm working on it," I said. "Forgiveness isn't the same as pretending it didn't happen." She started to cry then, soft, embarrassed tears. I passed her a box of tissues. She used 3 and put them on the table with the neatness of someone who had been taught to clean up after herself, even when life felt like a mess. She moved into a sublet with a friend from work. She canceled 3 dinner plans with Tyler and kept 1, then canceled the 4th and didn't reschedule. On August 12th, she texted me a screenshot of a message she sent him. "I want some time to think." He responded with 3 paragraphs about loyalty and family and what his mother thought. She turned her phone off and left it off for a day. I didn't crow. I didn't parade the screenshot through anyone's kitchen. I watered my plants and went to work and cooked salmon because it makes the house smell like lemon and heat, and something that almost feels like forward. In September, Pine and Plate sent me a note. Because of my donation authorization, the unopened dry goods from the canceled reception had stocked a community pantry near the river for 2 weeks. They included a photo of a chalkboard sign that read, "Thanks to a wedding angel, we're full." I laughed or cried, I can't tell which it was anymore, and forwarded it to no one. Some satisfactions are too quiet to share. On October 3rd, my deposit from the apartment relisted returned to my account. I moved the funds to savings and named the account Boundaries, because humor is cheaper than therapy and sometimes works faster. On October 6th, I bought myself a proper raincoat, a navy one. The sleeves fit. People asked if I'd go to Maddie's second wedding someday if there ever was one. I told them I don't plan that far ahead anymore. Plans require the cooperation of other hearts. Lists only require ink and a steady hand. When I think about the moment at Laurel Fork, I don't replay the pointing finger or the words that cut. I replay the feeling of my phone in my palm, the weight of a decision already made in March, April, May, each time I initialed a clause and chose control over hope. It wasn't the grand gesture that turned the day. It was 1,000 small signatures that said, "If you make me leave, I will leave, and take my name off the bill when I go." People confuse kindness with access. They think the person who cooks will always slice their share a little thicker. I am done with that confusion. I still make cinnamon toast on cold mornings. I make it for myself. When I see gardenias now, I think of the aisle and the hush and the way music keeps playing even when you stop listening. I think of my daughter, who will one day braid a child's hair and tell a story about a day in June when love and respect were weighed and measured. And I think of the contracts in my purse, ink dry, strings tied. Not to strangle but to keep the whole thing from falling.